There seems to be an awful lot of sad stories in the news today, and there are thousands missing. Does anybody care? New Bella channel, where we talk about those faces. Talking news. Debbie. Cassie Barnes has still not been found, and it's been 2 years since her case first hit the spotlight. Breaking. Chad Daybell and Vallow both behind bars. Sarah Galloway was found. She wasn't found alive. What happened to Sarah Galloway?
It's too heartbreaking to share.
Children are still missing. Children like Dorsey. You're in shame. You just got away with it. Welcome to Talking News. Hello everyone. My name is Debbie. We use big stories to push little faces.
Hello everyone, welcome to Chasing a Murderer Talking News. Before we get started, I want to let you guys know that you can push that subscribe button or hit the like button or even comment after you watch this video and share your thoughts. Also, I have a Patreon page if you would like to donate to help us keep going. So today, I want to continue talking about the Lori Vallow case. And actually, her husband, Chad Daybell. We know that she had her arraignment April 19th of 2022. She had been deemed competent after being incompetent for about 10 months. So court has been scheduled attached to the Lori Vallow case, and Just Alum actually posted this on his Facebook yesterday, late yesterday, April 21st of 2022. On the notice, it says that Lori's jury trial is set for 10/11/22 through 12/16/22. And pre-trial conference is actually scheduled for 9/6/22. Justin mentions the fact that Chad Daybell's name is not listed. So a lot of people are wondering, is there a sever in this case? Well, so far, there is no sever, but a lot of conflict. It seems sometimes that Lori Vallow's husband, Chad Daybell, seems to be distancing himself, which would be a great move, a lot of people believe. But as for Lori, her attorneys are ready to move fast. Can they be ready that quick? Their prep time, as Lori's defense attorneys, is strange. Well, it's shorter than the rest of the team. I mean, when you compare it to Chad Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, basically on the case nearly at the start, not at the start, but close to it. And if you've been following this case, Lori Vallow had a different attorney altogether. His name was Mark Means, and now he's off this case, thrown off the case a few months back. So let's refer back to Lori Vallow's arraignment, what Judge Boyce said. He said that at Lori's arraignment that he would discuss with prosecutor Lindsay Blake the schedule, and they would try to schedule Chad and Lori together in October of 2022. So they will have the status conference, and this is so that they can get everyone on the same page and on the same date on the calendar. Many people who are following this case are hoping that the cases are severed, but this will end up costing more. And really, I mean, if you think about it, Boyce would most likely try to keep the two joined. However, if they are separated, especially by default, I think this will create a new ball game altogether, especially from Lori Vallow's perspective. If you remember, back when Lori was incompetent, we were wondering why Pryor was pushing so hard to sever Chad Daybell's case from his wife's. And during Lori's arraignment, we learned that she did not waive her right to a speedy trial, which means in this case they must schedule trial within 6 months. As before Lori's arraignment, Chad had his, where he actually waived his right to a speedy trial. So for me, this sends a very confusing message. And this is why. So there's lots of conflict going on outside, inside, and around this case. There's constant issues. At a recent hearing for Chad Daybell, remember, Pryor was not using Lori's married name, Lori Daybell. Instead, he addressed her as Lori Vallow, or Miss Vallow. Lori's husband, Chad, was beside his attorney the entire time, didn't have any qualms about it, it seems. But one might raise an eyebrow and wonder, is this just another technique to distract people, the case, everything? But one thing that all of us who are following this case can agree on is it's taken far too long to get the trial and bring justice for the victims. And Judge Boyce definitely has his hands full coming in as a newer judge. The Lori and Chad Daybell case will certainly give him more than enough experience for the future of his career. Now let's talk about something I haven't talked about. And so many people believe that Alex Cox, which is Lori's brother and protectant angel, will be the one that they will shift the blame instead of shifting the blame on each other. People have dreamt of a moment where Chad and Lori will throw each other under the bus. But it's nearly 3 years, guys, and it hasn't happened yet. So not only that, let's think about this. So Lori Vallow's brother, Alex Cox, is thought to be the trigger puller on each victim connected to this case. He was actually attached to Lori and Chad's little cult that they were building together. And yes, I use the word cult because that's what it is. And according to people that know Alex, they believe that Alex believed in everything that these two taught in this cult. Now, I myself don't necessarily believe that Alex Cox believed any of it. Instead, I believe there's a possibility that he enjoyed those moments. This is something he enjoyed doing. I think his sister realized this, and this is why she was able to pull his strings so easily. But that's just a thought, that's not fact. And, maybe his entire life, he was always wanting to do something that was a little dark. We know that he liked to make trips to, oh Lord, I forgot where he goes, Colombia, meet up with women. So he had that little secret lifestyle that he didn't share too much. And, well, here's the thing. We will never know because he's no longer here on this earth. He's gone. The only way we have to know Alex Cox is through a few videos he's shared through his comedy auditions, a few texts, eyewitnesses, friends, and GPS information in the document dump attached to this case.
Now, I want to mention this so I don't forget. I know I'm hopping about a little bit. But we want to start talking about the fact, is a plea deal on the table for either of these guys? One thing I do know for certain, the first one to plea is the first one to get out. And if one strikes a plea deal, most likely it's going to require them to testify against the other one. And while they're talking about money issues, this is the best route to go in order to save money, is to strike a plea bargain. So here's the part that makes it difficult for me to see Lori doing a plea bargain, is the fact that, well, you waive 3 rights protected by the 5th and 6th Amendments: the right to a jury trial, the right against self-incrimination, and the right to confront witnesses. So this is the part, I think, if Lori was to do something like this, it would be difficult for her simply because she doesn't like to admit she's wrong. But the only way that there's a chance for this is if she knows there's no other way to get to her enemies. That's my opinion. And what's happening on the back burners, we could only wish to know. Something is cooking, and we just don't know what's cooking. And I wanted to mention what I've learned is 3 different plea bargains that one can take. The most common one being the charge bargain. This is where you bargain your sentence, and the prosecution agrees to allow the defendant to plead to a lesser charge in return for dismissing more serious charges. So one example online is a common example they say is when a defendant agrees to plead guilty to a manslaughter charge in order for the courts to not charge the defendant with murder. Then you have what they call fact bargaining. Online sources say that this is something that has similarities to charge bargaining. With sentence bargaining, the defendant agrees to plead guilty in return for a lesser sentence. The difference here is that sentence bargaining, if I can spit it out, guys, that with the sentence bargaining, the sentence does not change. Only the potential sentence does. Fact bargaining is one of the least common variety of plea bargains, they say, which fact bargaining, the defendant agrees to admit to certain facts in return for the prosecution to not introduce other facts into the evidence. In fact, bargaining only appears in very specific cases and for specific purposes. And in many jurisdictions, the courts do not even allow fact bargaining. Similar to that is sentence bargaining, which goes equal there. Here's an interesting one. Who's ever heard of Rule 11 in the state Idaho plea agreement? Well, what this is a plea agreement that is binding. It's a very binding agreement. And this agreement is entered into by both parties for a certain sentence if the defendant pleads guilty to specific criminal charges. In return for this plea agreement under this rule, it binds the court to the terms of the agreement. Now, one of the rules stipulating that you can do, I guess, these plea deals, and I'm not certain on this, so if you're into law, double check me on this one. The fact that Lori Vallow at her arraignment refused to, answer. She remained silent. The court had to put in a plea for her is a sign that there's a possible chance of a plea deal. To me. I mean, that's not for certain, guys. That's just my thoughts. And will she do it in a no-low contendory style? Admitting guilty, yet not admitting guilt. Perhaps Chad beat her to it. The most interesting thing about this case to me is watching her try to outdo laws with other laws. We have no choice but to put up with all this. We know this is what we have to deal with, so you start gaining other interest instead of just justice, because there's no such thing as immediate justice in this case. My main thing now is, what is she gonna pull out of the hat this time? Now, one thing I did notice, and I want to do another video on this, is Chad Daybell had his hearing the same day as Lori's arraignment. In fact, his hearing was before hers. One thing I did notice about Chad Daybell, and I don't know about you guys, don't forget to share it in comments below, and make sure that you read each other's comments and communicate. But his demeanor was so much different, even more different than Lori. To me, I see a lot of regret in his face. Whether or not that's truly regret, masked by something else, I guess we won't know for a while. And when his hearing was over, I think it was quite interesting seeing East Idaho News, I think it was, that posted a reporter yelling out to both Chad and Lori as they left the courthouse, to each one while let's say Chad leaves first, and a reporter says, "Do you still love Lori?" Of course, no response. And then Lori leaves, and a reporter yells, "Do you still love Chad?" So it's interesting for that reporter, for that to be one of the main questions. Obviously, people are wondering, is this love affair still strong? Is it still a team? And if it isn't, who's going to be the first one to talk? So a lot of interesting things I would like to know about these two is, are they communicating like they were at the beginning? At first, when they were both arrested, they both had a different aura about them. So, they were a little kind of cocky, smirkish, and confident. Now the reality has set in. They've been behind bars for quite a time, and those smiles have disappeared. We have heard hints from Chad's children that they believe that their father was a victim in all this. And remember when they found the children in the backyard, the children's response, Chad's children, is, would he be stupid enough to commit such a crime and then put the evidence in his own backyard? Well, that is a logical question, but obviously it happened. But let's pretend they have a point. Let's say that both Chad and Tammy, because Tammy was alive at the time, and the family that, he has family that's coming and going and friends that come and go, including Alex Cox. Somehow, Alex Cox is in his backyard doing things, but he has no idea what's going on. He never had any questions about these freshly dug holes in his yard that he didn't dig. What about that burn pile? Well, that's something that he did mention in a text. He did have to burn some debris. So about the same time that he's saying he's in the backyard, he pretty much incriminated himself by the timestamps, because it's the same timestamps that Alex Cox is in that same area. So he won't be able to use that defense very well. So what do you guys think is brewing on both sides? Drop it in comments. So before I do viewer comments, which is only a few that we're going to do today, I want to talk about the fact of what I noticed about Chad Daybell. So one thing I noticed about Chad Daybell is not only his demeanor, that he seemed to be really no longer walking on a cloud, but he's got his feet on the ground. Remember, at the beginning, if you follow this case, he was quite cocky and smirky, just as Lori was. Now, he was also, at that time, losing tons of weight. Totally looked different from the Chad Daybell that his children and his wife knew. He was losing weight at a fantastic rate, guys. And this is during a time that he's very interested in Lori, and they're kind of messing around while they're both married. But on April 19th of 2022, check this out. Chad Daybell has gained a significant amount of weight. There's one clue a man can give away if he's interested in a woman, and that is, especially a new relationship, is his weight. Chad Daybell has gained quite a bit of weight, and it's not just because he can't exercise or all these things. I think that he has just totally realized that he dug himself in a hole, and he doesn't like it. I think in some ways he's regretting what he did, and that he's wanting to go back to that old lifestyle that he once had. And would he have, done this if he hadn't got caught? I think, there's a possibility maybe years later, but not anytime soon if they hadn't been caught. But today, Chad Daybell is showing big time signs of, regretting everything that has happened. So, it could be depression. I guess it could be, but I really feel like he has moved away from Lori Vallow quite a bit. And I think that's why you're hearing about, the sever and the fact that she's not being addressed as Miss Daybell by John Pryor. So we'll see, I guess. I mean, we can only, that's speculation and opinion and just thinking about the case and knowing what you know about it already. So what do you guys think? Let's go ahead and do subscriber comments. So many of us were interested in Lori's arraignment, April 19th of 2022. And this is what Marie has to say. I can't believe she wouldn't even listen to the charges being read in full. And is staying silent. I mean, okay, silence, it's a right, but to not allow charges to be read in her presence, I thought maybe she's making it out to be difficult or emotional, but it's not this. But I can't let go of what she thinks about Chad agreeing to sever the case. That is what I really want to know is Chad allowed to contact her in any way? Because I'll bet he has a story to tell her from God. Her lawyer seems to be smart. I think he might be persuading her to go against him. And the fact she is restored may be her way of using that to say, I really believed all of this bull crap with Chad, but I was mentally ill and now I'm not, and I'm using it to my advantage. There's absolutely something going on. John Pryor knows as well, but not officially. Thanks, Debbie. P.S. The October date is when Tammy was murdered, October 19th. You guys are really good with your dates, and you like to remind me about everything. I appreciate it so much. I like all your shares. And I think you're absolutely right, Marie. So many of us are getting that feeling something isn't right. And it's not official yet. It's like there's like something cooking in the back behind the curtain. You can see the shadow, but you can't make out what exactly is going on. Kind of reminds me of the Austin Power movies. Have you ever seen that? It was hilarious. Where he's behind the curtain and he's like pulling the string out from, this person. It looks like it's coming from a place it shouldn't. And the whole time it's just coming out of a tool bag. And so that's the way that we're really we're thinking, we're seeing certain things. Is it really what it seems to be? Okay, so next is Lily Marie. I found it odd that she kept her eyes closed when they read out the murder charges. I watched it twice. She had no emotion, but her eyes kept shutting. Plus, her eyes are so much darker and almost empty now compared to just after her arrest. So like so many people watching this case, they have watched from some sort of sign, emotion from her eyes, facial expression, anything. And I've seen several people comment on her eyes. So a lot of people believe that her eyes are a lot darker. Some people believe that she has a lot of medication in her system. This is why her eyes are kind of dark or glassy. But for everything to have happened, for two of her own flesh and blood to no longer be here on earth, really sets an idea of who she is. So obviously she's not capable of bonding as normal people do, so as you would expect. And so we keep looking for something like that would give us a clue that she's human, and it doesn't seem to be there. Because a lot of people care about these kids, especially. I mean, there's a lot of victims, but the kids, of all things, are so important that they get the justice they deserve. And a lot of people are just wanting to see regret from the mother. But to me, it just isn't there. There is nothing. And one thing about this type of person is they're the type of person that will get like their posse together and teach them how to attack others. And, it really shows, the people, for instance, you can tell a person's channel, especially crime channels, based on their subscribers, what kind of people they draw. And that's what we see a lot of around Lori Vallow, and it's hard to believe, there's a lot of people who were able to tolerate her claiming that she wanted to murder him, referring to Joseph Ryan, or to testify against people, or to go to someone's house and stalk them. And you can't help but think, a lot of these people that were surrounding Lori, that were close to Lori, how many of them were like her? Anyways, the top thing you need to know about a person like Lori is they're narcissists. Firstly, if you say something about them, they don't like it, they attack you. Instead of saying, back off, they attack. And they will mention oftentimes that they are very empathetic and that they care, they seem to care, and they go out of their way to show they care. This is how Lori fooled people. But you'll know somebody that's like her by how they will take a tragic story and flip it to themselves and how their life wasn't that great. Many times they'll assume that if you're talking about something and it sounds like them, good or bad, they'll apply it to themselves. Sadly, many times there are mental illnesses that they never address but should. But you got to remember, they think so highly of themselves, they don't think they're capable of being mentally ill or having any kind of issue. And they will use their friends to attack other people. And like I mentioned before, who would do such a thing? The one thing we learned about preparing the people, they each had a tragic life. And it was about them. In fact, if you were a narcissist, you'd probably listen to this and say, oh, wait, is she talking about me? Narcissists try to destroy credibility of others they don't like. They are entitled and bully others who say things that they don't want to hear or they don't want said. In fact, I was dealing with something like that just a few days ago. We all have run across one. Narcissists lack self-awareness. They even deny flaws and blame others for mistakes that are happening. This is called projection. This is something I noticed that a lot of Lori's family members and friends often like to use this technique. And you can tell because when they start talking about this case, they start throwing their own stories into it. Woe is me. And what they don't realize that they might not be caught immediately, but eventually people catch up to who you really are. And Lori is finding that out as we speak. So how bittersweet is that? But she's not learning any lessons from it because she believes that she needs special treatment. That's the way the narcissist's mind works. I'm this person involved with this case, so I deserve this. I'm a victim. I'm being targeted. She also has a need to compete with others, which is another narcissist trait. And narcissists certainly know how to seek out weaker narcissists. Narcissists also mimic other people, and we see this all the time. In Chad Daybell's book, he writes about one of his visions, and that vision was about he was working on one of his family works at the temple, and he has this dream. I can't remember exactly, but this is what's important anyways. He says that he sees one of his kids come to him in this vision and say, "Don't forget about me, don't forget about me." Several years later, Lori is speaking in front of a group of the preppers, and she has a similar story where she's working on her family, and she's the one at the temple, and she has an angel come and say, "Don't forget about me, don't forget about me," mimicking Chad's visions almost perfectly. Whether she realized anyone else read his books or not, it was very evident that she had stole or mimicked this same event that Chad had. So pay attention to people who were once Lori's friends, and you will see exactly what I'm trying to say. Obviously, birds of a feather flock together. And you know, people can change, and I'm pretty sure a lot of these people after this are going to say, hey, I am not going down that road, and they made some big changes. So yeah, if as long as you don't wear your feelings on a shoulder when somebody has that kind of issue, it shouldn't be a problem. So, you know, like I said, it takes a lot of work and concentration for me to get things out in the correct order. And I know that my subscribers that have been here from the start know this, but this is for the new people that don't know me so well. So, all right, let's continue with a few more comments. Hi, Debbie. My first impression when I saw Lori was she looked very gaunt in the face, much thinner. Her cheeks have literally disappeared. I think that she is going to blame everything on Chad and her brother Alex, more than likely. She has had enough time to get her story straight. I'm glad she's going to be tried alongside Chad. I'm not sure she was expecting that to happen. Can't wait for the trial and to see some justice for all the victims. Thanks for posting, Debbie. Lots of love and hugs. And this is a great comment share from my girl, Lainey Roots. Love her to death. Thanks for sharing, Lainey, and I think you're absolutely correct. It's going to be interesting to see the two of them have to sit there, especially together, if they don't sever this case, and see the reactions of witnesses that will stand up there, including their friends. I mean, you got to think about it. You have friends who were once on the same page as Lori and Chad, had the same goals, and now the most trustworthy on their list are going to sit as a witness and start talking about what they see, what they understand, and basically throw them under the bus. You know, it's interesting. We've seen from Mark Means, Lori Vallow's previous attorney, kind of do some shout outs to Melanie Gibb and their gang, saying, you know, claiming that they were rats running away and that they needed to come forward and share what they know. But something I'm not certain about, and if this is happening, is Lori gonna throw them truly under the bus? What has she told her attorneys? What is Chad saying? So they're very careful, though they are bullies and controlling. They're very careful of how they treat the people they're trying to control. And to me, it seems like they have this specific manipulation tactic that they use, and trust is the most important one. So, Lainey, you know, yeah, it is interesting. Kind of threw me in a different direction, didn't it? To say the least. What's going to happen in court? Are they going to suddenly say, hey, you know, Melanie did this, so-and-so did this? You know, is it going to be a free-for-all in the ring? A lot of people are quick to say, you know, this is something that you don't see very often, but sadly, there are tons of narcissists out there, tons of them. In fact, they carry this little fake thing of empathy and caring very well. Narcissists being great at manipulation. Earlier years, narcissism was like 30% and empathy was 70%, but now narcissism is 70% and empathy is 30%. You say something that they don't want to hear on your video, they come out and they attack you. You say something that you support something on politics, they come out and attack you. I couldn't imagine what Joseph Ryan went through all that time. He had no one to believe him, what was happening to him, and he's trying to fight this. And it's a very difficult situation when you have an extreme manipulator at your side, behind you, in front of you, constantly playing this manipulation game. But if you're smart enough and you're patient enough, you'll win. Sadly, Joe Ryan didn't get that chance to see where he won, and he's winning right now. I don't know who Joe Ryan was exactly, but I feel the most pain for him. He's one of the top ones simply because of what he went through. Trying to destroy someone for practically no reason at all other than you didn't give her what she wanted, you weren't good enough, and now you're going to pay for it. And the fact that she had his own family, friends, her family, all against him was, it just blew my mind. I think several of them are now regretting that they did, but they seem to think that they didn't see what was really going on. And you can tell they really regret it by watching their actions and, you know, their material, interviews, whatever. We haven't been able to see Melanie Pawlowski or Boudreaux. She's been on the down low for quite a while. And then you got Zalima. That one right there. I don't understand how the heck she's still walking free. That goes for Melanie Gibb as well, you know. You got to let it go. I mean, it's over. They're talking with the police and trying to give them information. They know they are not giving them the full information. That's my opinion. And we're allowed to have opinions on here. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen, right, guys? Because everyone knows that even the people attached to this case, so a lot of them are doing videos and research and sharing their opinions of other people. So sometimes I do get a little emotional and bring in some things that might touch my heart a little bit more than usual. And so I need to be more careful to detach cases from there. It causes problems. Hey, we try to be the best people that we are daily. It's always work. We're never perfect. None of us. But there's just some things that touch more, touch our heart more than others. Some things do these things. And as a human being, you're going to have reactions to some things that are attached to those emotions. So the one thing you can do is how you react to something shows who you really are. And let me tell you something, guys. With this case, I have learned that sometimes my intuitions are right, spot on. But sometimes I am wrong. But once I figure that out, I'm quick to say I was wrong. And like I mentioned, people like Lori or others like her, a lot of her friends, they never admit when they're wrong, or they bully people. That, my friends, is a perfect example of someone you want to be very wary of. So what I'm going to do is I want to get this series finished attached to this case. Those of you that have been watching that, and that is Life Beyond the Grave, it's starting to get very good at this point. The thing is, there's so much information that I have, it's hard to put it all in there. And also, since I've been doing that, I'm struggling to keep up date with the new stuff coming out. So when I do this series, I might be still stuck in the past in parts because it was so much work. Thank you to everyone that shares their comments. Thank you to everyone that give on Patreon. And I want to send my blessings and love out to those of you struggling. And also, please, guys, please share one of our missing girls' faces on one of your group pages or TikTok. It doesn't matter. It just takes a few seconds and it can make a difference. That's what we're about here, right? So, love you guys. Don't forget to comment your thoughts. And I'll see you guys soon.